the quality of your relationship will come down to the level of humility, courage, and vulnerability within each partner of the relationship. And that I've never found, and I've been looking. I'm looking for it not being that. Cannot find it.
Our relationship has taught me that with the right person, growth is never truly a bad thing. It is always an opportunity, and it is always something that betters your relationship and has you two growing together, not apart. Conscious couples, business partners, and singles committed to attracting their dream partner. Welcome to the Conscious Couples podcast, where we share our life, love story, and combined relationship expertise to help you create and consistently cultivate the most magnificent, intimate relationship possible.
Never again will you feel hopeless and alone in your intimate relationship challenges.
Having accumulated thousands of hours coaching conscious couples and individuals all over the world, as well as starting and growing a global business together, Alan and I are here to guide you in all things relationships.
Thank you again for tuning into the one place where it's not about you or me, it's about the we. Conscious couples and individuals, welcome back to the one and only Conscious Couples podcast, The Love Train. For episode today, we have episode 142. It is a Saturday. I am cooked, but I am here. Let's rock. Episode 142, what we've learned from our 5-year anniversary, which is tomorrow, October 27th, 5 years ago. Emilia and I went on our very first date. It was a Sunday, and it was the best first date I've ever been on and the last first date I've ever been on. Before we jump into this episode, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Next Level Podcast Solutions for producing this show and so many others. We work with 61 podcasters now that group coaching is 11 podcasters. Amazing. 61 podcasters around the world. Self-improvement, personal development, mental health, all things bettering oneself. So thank you for doing all of this hard work and spreading all this good, positive, growth-oriented content into the world. My love, usually I ask your intention, and this time I'm going to ask your intention and have you share why we're doing this episode.
I'm so excited. So my intention for our listeners today is to help them pull out some golden nuggets, some lessons for them in their relationships so that obviously they can grow together and not apart, because that is the through line at the Conscious Couples podcast. And we have each 5 lessons that we've learned in reflection of 3 lessons that we've learned.
I only prepared 3. I don't I'm usually an overachiever. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so in reflection of our last 5 years. So my intention is to have them really weave those lessons that we've learned and integrate those in their relationship. So last night, you and I, this is called the claw hand. For if you're watching on YouTube, Alan and I have this weird kind of hand holding because my hands are small and his hands are large. So I have to ask him to give me like 2 fingers to like hold my little baby hands around. So anyways, she has cute little hands.
It's
so for any of the females out there with little hands, and if you have large man hands with your partner, we can teach you how to do the claw.
Just
but
do
that's
the
another
claw.
That's another
That's
episode.
a whole
so
nother
2
episode.
fingers,
Yep.
and for her, she just holds those.
Perfect.
So it's cute.
It's so cute. Okay, so last night, Alan and I were on our way home from the gym, and it was Friday night. So by the time you guys are listening to this, it will be a Monday that's coming out. It was the Friday before this Monday. And we're coming home from the gym, and I was like in all my feels. I was so excited to capture the moment, capture the mem. I was like, 5 years ago, this day, you were at the gym, you had slid into my DMs. And now here we are 5 years later, sliding into our garage in our home. And we have our babies that we're coming home to, our fur babies. And we have a plant in the back that Alan was so sweet and gifted to me. So anyways, why do I mention that? It was such a moment that was really, really big for me in particular. And what we had done after we did get home, after we did get home, it was a really sweet moment that we had. And I was sharing this with B when we were recording a podcast for Evolve Ventures podcast about this. And I had shared with her that, you shared with me when we got home the other night that you had created in the first 2 years of our relationship a folder that was, what was the name? Emilia's?
So it was Emilia
Best
Heart-Best Memories.
Oh, so sweet.
So for the first 2 years of our relationship, I had a folder. It used to be Dropbox, then I converted it to Google Drive, of every audio file. We used to send each other audios. Personal podcasts is what we used to call them, because before we lived together, we weren't big on talking on the phone, but we would always send each other a personal note about our day, and we were very inseparable. It was very sweet. And so every video, every photograph, every audio that we would send each other, we used to send gratitudes before bed every night. I saved all of that into a special folder. And so Emilia and I, every single year, and we've done this before, love, several times actually, where we would go back and look at the photos of the very first New Year's Eve we spent together, the very first time we ever went and had sushi together, the very first time we went axe throwing, the very first date, the second date we have photos from. And so last night, with the projector up on the big screen, we went through this folder, and that was before we had our 2 cats. That was before we had a home together. That was before we had the Tesla. That was before a lot of things.
Before a lot of relationship talks,
before
coaching.
That was before this journey.
The Conscious Couples podcast. So a lot of it was just so in the feels, and it was such a beautiful thing. And we went through a lot of those memes and listening to audios, seeing videos, pictures of Tucker. You even had a picture of the Y Power podcast mug that I had that had like my whole mission state, and it was so cute. So anyways, what Alan and I had done last night in all the feels was we had a deep conversation after that and really reflected upon some of the biggest lessons that we've groomed through and that we now see from such a different vantage point in the last 5 years of our relationship. In a former episode, Alan had mentioned, the difference between someone that's growth oriented and someone that really isn't is that they have so many software upgrades. He likened it to like a phone, right? A phone always has software upgrades. And so there's so many different versions of ourselves that we undergo. And when we're in a growth-oriented relationship, you have so many of these upgrades, for lack of better words, where you and your partner are leveling each other up. Maybe it's just you, right? We talked about those. And essentially we pulled the 3, not 5, but the 3 biggest lessons that Alan and I have learned in retrospect, really looking at hindsight is always 2020. And so we want to share those with you. And I didn't share these with Alan before, and he didn't share his before this episode. So we're going to kind of dialogue around those and bring these back to our listeners and really see how what we've learned, how that can help your relationship, especially after over these 5 years. We have researched, we have studied, we have worked with so many different clients and so many couples around the world. So there's no doubt that the lessons that we've learned in our relationship are going to build a bridge to all the challenges and struggles and lessons learned that we have seen and help couples overcome. So do you want to go first, my love?
It's got to be ladies first.
Me?
Girl.
Okay.
It's gotta
All
be
right.
ladies
Great.
First. Real quick before you jump in. So Emilia broke it into 3 categories. The first one is what she learned about relationships in general. The second one is what she learned about other people. And the third is what she learned about herself. And I did that too.
You did? Okay.
Relationships, others, and myself. So and we offer for everyone to do this. So whether you've been together for 13 years, like one of our past clients, or you've been together for 5 or 2 or whatever it is, reflect on your relationship, go back to old photographs, get some perspective, and then do this exercise. So what have I learned in my relationship about relationships? What have I learned in my relationship about other people? And what have I learned in relationships about myself?
The Nickelback just came in my head. Look at this photograph. So anyways, yes, reflect. And the first thing that I would like to share that I learned about relationships from Alan and I's relationship over the last 5 years, I have written down here, with the right person, in all caps, growth never truly is a bad thing.
Whoa.
And I said that because you and I have spoken openly and very candidly about what it feels like to be in a non-growth oriented relationship.
It's the worst.
It is literally the worst thing. You are actively decaying in the entropy train 24/7. And if you're the growth oriented human, which is what I always was in my past relationships, you start to feel like crap about who you are. And if you're growth oriented, that's not fair to you. So our relationship has taught me that with the right person, growth is never truly a bad thing. It is always an opportunity, and it is always something that betters your relationship and has you two growing together. not apart.
So a good thing that I've often said is with past relationships, it felt like I was in alignment with my growth journey, and then I'd have to go over here and make it work.
Yeah.
And then I'd have to go back when I was done with them spending quality time. I'd have to go back into alignment with my goals and dreams. And then I'd have to go over here and make it work. And then I'd go back into alignment with my goals and dreams. And then I have to go back over here and make it work. And with Emilia, it already works. Just don't screw it up. And I think that that's a good indicator. So goals and dreams, and this connects pretty well to one of mine. And I'm going to actually jump to others for this one. People are not having nearly as many deep conversations as they need. So it wasn't until my relationship with Emilia that I started to realize that deep conversations not only was one of my top core values, and it's one of the conscious love languages, by the way. And if you haven't gotten the 25 conscious love languages worksheet, we can put that in the show notes and or reach out to Emilia or I. But ultimately, if you have goals and dreams, and then you inevitably have to grow into those goals and dreams. Software upgrades, like you mentioned. If you don't have goals and dreams, there's no necessity to grow. And the opposite of if you're not growing, you're dying type of thing. So goals and dreams require growth. Growth requires deep conversations. Because if you don't have deep conversations, you're not learning from each other, and you're not doing the yin and yang that needs to happen in order for you to build your goals and dreams together.
So true. We actually had a relationship coaching call earlier today where you and I, the individual that was sitting in front of us, we were having a deep conversation, obviously, about relationships in this element. Really deep conversations is so and always has been so important to him. Existentialist conversations. What are we doing here? What is life all about? Like that was always a through line within him. And what we had shared with him is if we could go back to a past version of ourselves, we would encourage ourselves to really never spend as much time as we had with people who didn't value deep conversations.
Yeah. And my next one actually connects to that too.
Beautiful. So in the context of that, what a powerful lesson that our relationship has brought us to.
So far, we've got, just to sum up here, so far we've got growth is never a bad thing with the right person. And most people are not having enough deep conversations to actually work as a team. Okay, cool.
So what our relationship taught me about others was ultimately everyone wants so deeply love, a loving, caring, reciprocal relationship deeply, deeply, deeply craves love. What our relationship and what we've done with our relationship in helping and serving others has taught me about others is that yet so few people are really, really, truly willing to put in the effort to earn that love daily. And that makes my heart so sad, because what I've learned about others is that you might want something so deeply, so desperately, but yet when push comes to shove, when you're busy in your day-to-day and when you maybe don't believe in yourself, you might not have the capabilities or want to put in the effort that eventually will earn you that love that you want so deeply.
A little over a year and a half ago, I attended my first relationship call with Alan and Emilia. And as a single mother, I was very curious what I was actually going to be able to take away from it. I was very blown away with how deep we could actually go in that first session alone. It really opened the doors and opened my eyes to a lot of my patterning and wounding around relationships. Through attending some of their live events and through work with them, I have really grown in confidence, in learning how to love and show up for myself, which has been huge. And it's really set the bar high when in terms of standards for relationships and what I desire and need out of a relationship. They very much practice what they preach, and it's so nice to see people working consciously on relationships. Again, it's really set the bar high for what I look for and what I desire in a relationship. So I'm super grateful to be able to learn and grow from them and be a part of this community.
And so I think that has been a really hard lesson, because it's contributed to a lot of feelings of sadness of like, oh my goodness, so many people aren't really actually willing to put in the work that you and I do on the day-to-day to really get that love. What does that mean about the world?
And the work isn't necessarily on change and contort yourself to be different than who you are. It's more improve who you are.
Yeah.
And when you improve who you are and grow in the direction of your goals and dreams, the relationship should work more. So a good metaphor here is when you purchase a home, you now have a mortgage that you have to earn. So when you purchase a home, you have a mortgage, and now you have to, I think about that all the time. I'm earning living here. Living here is magnificent. I adore it, but I'm earning it every single day. And I think that's a good metaphor. A lot of people, babe, when they get into a relationship, they think the work is done.
Exactly.
They think they have to attract their partner, and then it's done. And they get married. Oh, we're married now, so it's done. And that's just not even remotely true.
Yeah.
You have to earn. The wedding can be great, but if you want a great marriage, you have to work on yourself every single day, at least a little bit. And you have to work on the relationship and that kind of thing too. Okay.
Absolutely.
So the first one, so I kind of went out of order here. So the first one that I shared, people are not having nearly as many deep conversations as they need to have. The first one is about relationships. So what I learned about relationships from really this podcast in particular and us coaching a lot of couples, humility, courage, and vulnerability is absolutely everything. So I cannot overstate this. I don't even know how much I should go back into this because for our long-term listeners, I say this every time. Kevin on the Next Level University podcast, he always asks me, Alan, you coach couples. What do you think? Humility, courage, and vulnerability. Every freaking time. Like all of you out there watching or listening to this, you can rate yourself on humility 0 to 10, courage 0 to 10, vulnerability 0 to 10. And if it's a 10 in all three, you are doing the work. You are winning. The yin and yang doesn't work when you don't. And then you rate your partner 0 to 10 on humility, 0 to 10 on courage, 0 to 10 on vulnerability. I am so convinced. I think of it as an infinity symbol. Picture two triangles next to each other and an infinity symbol. I give Emilia humble, courageous, vulnerable communication feedback. She takes that in with humility, courage, vulnerability, gives me feedback, and it's an infinity symbol that grows over time. And that, to me, is what I've learned more than anything, is the quality of your relationship will come down to the level of humility, courage, and vulnerability within each partner of the relationship. And that I've never found, and I've been looking. I'm looking for it not being that. Cannot find it.
What I think has been really cool in our discovery process, to endorse what you're saying, that has been the truth, like in not just neurotypical relationships, quote unquote normal relationships, but also neurodivergent couples. And in addition to that, anyone might think and hear that of like, okay, well, yeah, for opposite gender. We've also tested and tried that and shown, like, the evidence supports that even in same-sex couples, that is a fundamental principle.
I think that's a principle for friends, family, everything. The quality and the depth of a relationship has to come down to those three, and the authenticity in the relationship as well. So
that's actually a beautiful bridge into my last one. The biggest lesson that I've learned about myself through our relationship actually has ironically come down to one of those three words that you just mentioned, which just so happens to be, you def know it, vulnerability. So what I've learned about myself is being vulnerable with those you love deeply, and I edited this, and those who love and actively care about you deeply, super important, is one of the most powerful struggles worth mastering. So vulnerability has always been a struggle for me. I've mentioned in this podcast setting that I am an avoidant attachment style. Those have been my tendencies, and I'm working on having a secure attachment style with Alan. That's the only person that has enabled that to be possible. Without vulnerability, that literally would be impossible. Alan is more quick to go to vulnerability in our relationship. I'm more quick to go to courage. He and I are both quick to go to humility. Vulnerability is what I struggle with. And that through our relationship, you have taught me so much about myself and how vulnerability is such a strength. It's not a weakness. And where I came from, that was the complete opposite narrative. So it is so worth mastering. And I am so looking forward to the next 5 years of doing a podcast like this and seeing where I'm at in that. So I'm very grateful for that, my love. Grateful for you.
I'm grateful you feel safe enough to be vulnerable. For the listeners watching or viewing this, listening to this, think about how vulnerable it is to share how much we're sharing about ourselves. I looked this up earlier, 5.45 billion human beings on the internet. This is on YouTube, available to anyone. So the level of courage, humility, and vulnerability necessary to do this show, I'm on a Saturday, I'm cooked. I have a freaking coaching call in 25 minutes. I've done 50 sessions this week, podcasting, coaching, training. I'm not trying to complain.
Been crushing.
What I am trying to say, thank you, sweetheart, but what I am trying to say is anything worth having in life, including love and being with your partner, is going to take so much humility, courage, and vulnerability. We couldn't do this podcast if we weren't willing to be vulnerable, and you could not do this podcast if you weren't willing to be vulnerable. And it's very clear, by the way, when we watch the videos and the audios, listen to them, and then watch the photos, you are far more vulnerable than you used to be.
Yeah.
Which is really, really good.
It's so scary.
Yeah.
But you created that
You're
safe
so
space.
sweet, my love. And by the way, vulnerability looks different for everybody.
Mm-hmm. It's a spectrum too. It's not just on or off switch.
Yes. So 3 ways we lie to ourselves: deflate, inflate, and omit. It's a big thing for me lately. I think that vulnerability for Emilia is actually shining because she's brilliant, she's amazing, and it's very scary for her to amplify that. And so I'm very grateful and proud of you, and I want to always dial that up.
Thank you.
As long as it's relevant to our listeners. I'm kidding. Okay. The third one for me, so again, the first one I said was about others, the second one was actually about relationships, and the third one is about myself. And the third one about myself, this is what I wrote: deeper understanding means the world to me. So honestly, when I look back, so I didn't meet Emilia until I was 29. So October 27th of 2019 is when Emilia and I first met. This is a part that Emilia and I don't really know how to articulate to anyone, and I don't know, we do this all the time. So humility, courage, vulnerability, inflate, deflate, omit, frameworks, all these things. Emilia and I have deep conversations and deeper understanding all the time. So my favorite part about Emilia, one of my favorite parts, I don't know if I can say my favorite part because there's so many awesome parts, but she needs to understand. And when we first met, so she's laughing right now because when we first met, I basically sent her an audio and I said, listen, I think you might be like me. I don't want to know. I fucking need to know. And so we call it our scientists. We are just scientists. And what we mean by that is we have 1,000 hypotheses every day, and then we test them. And we're constantly testing our understanding up against reality. Persons, places, things, and ideas. 24/7, 365. It is genuinely exhausting. Now, here's the deal. I don't think that other people care about having a deeper understanding. And I get it, right? I don't care about our plumbing. I don't really care about how jet engines work, although I am fascinated by some aerospace stuff. But when it comes to human beings and the human condition and the hero's journey and relationships and all of this, I need to understand. And I remember Kevin one time, I'll be quick with this, I know we got to jump. Kevin said this one time because we were behind the scenes and I was teaching him some stuff. He said, dude, how do you know all this? And I said, Kevin, I needed to know all this. And what I meant by that is, brother, my goals and dreams required me to go learn all this. And so Emilia has a far deeper understanding of the inner work. And when we first met, I said this intuitively. I said, I'm going to teach you the external world: science, technology, engineering, mathematics, business, and finance. You're going to teach me the inner world: humility, courage, vulnerability, all these different things, parts, internal family systems, cognitive behavioral therapy. So she understood herself and the inner game much more than I did. And I understood the economy and the external world and business and systems and math more than she did. And together we've united. Rings unite. One ring to rule them all. No, but seriously, the yin and the yang is working the way it's supposed to. The infinity symbol is working the way it's supposed to. We've grown so freaking much over the last 5 years, and we're grateful to have all of you listeners out there on this journey with us. This is the love train. This is the growth train. I've started saying this last thing, I promise. If you have humility, work ethic, grit, and you want to earn love, you are going to love this podcast and you're going to love us. If you are entitled, arrogant, and you don't want to work and you
That's
want
true.
massive rewards for minimal effort, please shut this off. You're not going to like us. You never will. And that's okay. And by the way, you'll also die alone. I'm kidding. No, but seriously, humility, courage, vulnerability. This is the love train. I knew that would kill you. I knew you were going to die laughing on that one. It's been 5 years, my love. It's been 5 years, my love. Happy anniversary,
Happy
sweetheart.
anniversary to
We
you,
are
my
celebrating tomorrow with a very special day. I have a
I'm
couple
so
surprises.
excited. I do too.
And awesome. I actually saw one of them this morning. Yeah, I grabbed the groceries this morning. So, but anyways, thank you all for listening. We super appreciate it. Anything you want to add before we go, love?
Right. I forgot that. Okay. No, I don't have anything to add except for an invite for our amazing listeners in our amazing conscious couples and conscious singles community. The invite is to do not miss out. The link to register is in the show notes. It's going to be for our 41st relationship talks event. Holy guacamole. Our top 5 relationship game changers and how to implement them. Alan and I, external, internal world combination, world domination. We're going to help you do that in your relationship.
A million, bajillion. We do make movie references every now and then.
Lots of fun.
Okay, so I want to give a quick taste test on that. The gratitude game. Every night before bed, Emilia and I share 3 things we're grateful for about each other. If for whatever reason we zonk out and we miss, we make up for it the next day. That's been one of the game changers. So I'm going to give a taste test. That's one of the game changers. There's a few things that if you implement these 5 things, your love train is going to work way better. Way better. And these are tried and true because as scientists, we've been experimenting with this for the last 5 years. So please join us. Also, if you need relationship talks coaching, think of it like couples counseling. However, goals and dreams is the focal point. How to build your dreams together, how to get a home together, how to achieve the things that you want to achieve, how to make sure you're communicating effectively, how to make sure you're on the same team. And I was talking to Emilia about this last night. It's amazing to me how much easier it is to achieve goals and dreams when you have a partner who is so capable and so competent and who works together with you. So don't do this alone. Do this together. And if you want to book a call, our first one is free. The link will be in the show notes for a free 30-minute relationship talks coaching session. And don't tell anyone this, but we usually go over depending on when my next meeting is. In case you haven't noticed, I tend to be long-winded. Okay, everyone, we appreciate you. Thank you so much. And we will talk to you on the next one. As always, it's not about you or me. It's about the we. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Conscious Couples podcast. We love connecting with the Conscious Couples community, so please make sure you follow us on Instagram. I am at Evolve with Emilia, and Alan is Lazaros88.
Also, if you or your partner resonated with this episode, leave us a review at the link in the show notes, and please share this with someone you love and care about.
Until next time, remember, it's not about you or me. It's about
the we.